Hey guys, last lecture here for the executive branch. Again, thank you, Greta, for letting me use your homework here with these key terms. So I'll post a test next week, and then after that, guys, we just have the judicial branch to cover. So just kind of taking our time here. I will post a homework assignment as far as, there's 4 lectures. You can ask me 2 questions from any of these lectures, and that way I can give you some feedback, which normally I would do in class, which is really hard to do like this. Okay, so anyhow, we get to number 15 here, Executive Office of the President. Okay, so this has a bunch of different people that kind of help the president formulate his policy domestically and foreign policy wise. Okay. Anybody, if the president needs help with anything, these people are going to be there at the White House to help him, along with the White House office. Okay, key personnel and key staff. These are going to be his closest advisors, and this should say chief of staff, not chief of state. Greta, chief of staff is usually the closest advisor to the president. He just got a new one, President Trump. His name's Mark Meadows. He was a member of the House of Representatives. That resigned his job there to go to work for the president. So he's going to really help the president try politically, day-to-day operations, chief of staff. So the head of the staff of the White House. So he's kind of makes sure all these people are doing what they need to do. He's up to date on the president's calendar, what he's doing today, and so forth. Okay. You have the National Security Council, okay, and then usually get a National Security Advisor that is with this, okay. The NSC brings together the Joint Chiefs of Staff from the military branches, your State Department, which would be Foreign Affairs, Intelligence, CIA, FBI, Homeland Security. They're also going to have FEMA, Federal Emergency Management. And these guys help build the national security policy, okay? And the National Security Advisor, guys, this is ever since 9/11, even before, presidents get daily national security briefings. So the National Security Advisor can actually meet with the president every morning and give him that briefing, or they will give it to the president in writing. So, what's happening in North Korea today? Is Kim Jong-un alive or dead? Is he sick? We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the news on that. But because it's a communist country, guys, they don't have free press. You understand? Kind of like in China. They don't have a free press. And so the news coming out of China as far as, how many people they have that have COVID, how many have recovered, how many have died, are we really getting accurate numbers from China? I mean, if the 20th century taught us anything, guys, is that you can't trust communist dictators. Okay, they don't have an open society. Okay, so because we have a free press, they can always keep an eye on government. Okay, and as you guys know, if you pay any attention, our free press really does not like the president. Okay, and so if you've watched any of these briefings, they ask him a lot of kind of tough questions. They ask him, kind of gotcha questions, okay? And so and a lot of them are attempting to make the president look bad, okay? That's okay. I mean, it's the free press. They can do what they want, okay? You can choose to listen to them, or you can choose to ignore them, or listen to them and take what they say with a grain of salt, okay? That's up to us, and that's why we need to be educated, okay? So we can tell the difference between biased news and real news, okay? So the National Security Council is very important to this country. What's going on in Russia, what's going on around the world, okay? There's also a Council of Economic Advisors. This was created after World War II, provide the president with expert analysis of the economy. This is something certainly that the president is trying to meet with these folks, the Treasury Secretary, and others that are going to be dealing with the economy. Okay, trying to get the economy back going again. Okay, The OMB, or the Office of Management Budget, helped develop a federal budget to oversee the execution of these agencies. Okay, if the president has an idea and he wants to know how much it's going to cost, okay, the OMB can score that. They can look at, okay, this is how much revenue we're going to need. This is how much we're going to spend. What does that look like? Okay, so this is an important department as well. Other executive departments, these are the same as your cabinet departments. Okay, there are the 15 of those, right? So it starts with Secretary of State, Treasury, okay, Defense, okay, and then Justice Department, which is the Attorney General. Okay, these are in your book, guys. And this is something you should really know about. It's on 166, okay? That shows presidential succession on 166. But when you move forward through here, you get into more, so we're on page 181 where they talk about this White House office and all that, okay? OMB. And there's a good chart on 182 here that kind of shows you the chief of staff, how he's in charge of all these other people. You might look at that, okay? And then you get to the cabinet, which are the executive departments, okay? They're kind of interchangeable. Cabinet departments, executive departments. There's 15, okay? The last one created was the Department of Homeland Security. That was created after 9/11 to kind of coordinate efforts between the FBI, the CIA, the National Security Council that we just talked about, to make sure that they're sharing information to prevent a major attack against the United States. See, guys, if the CIA and the FBI would have been sharing information and working together, there's a really good chance that 9/11 would not have happened, okay? And this is a good segue into talking about bureaucracy in just a minute. But these executive departments, so you have labor, transportation, education, energy, all of these different departments, okay? And so that kind of takes you into the next chapter, okay? So page 198. It really breaks down all of these departments and what their roles are, okay? Some of them are really self-explanatory, like when you talk about education. Now, what this says is they establish policies for federal financial aid for educational purpose, collect data and research on American schools, focus national attention on major educational issues, enforce laws that ban discrimination in educational programs that receive federal funding. Okay, so Veterans Affairs assist veterans, the hospitals. We have VA hospitals and that sort of thing. Department of the Interior, that deals with like the national parks and federal lands. I talked about, I don't know, in history I talk about that. I don't know if your history teacher did. Department of Labor, Commerce. So you can look those over, guys. Just kind of see what these are big umbrella agencies, okay? So within these agencies, there are thousands and thousands of people that work. There's a secretary at the head, except for the Department of Justice. That's called the Attorney General, okay? And their job is to enforce federal law, okay? Our Attorney General today is a guy named Bob Barr, okay? And, so he's been pretty aggressive and looking into some of the stuff that happened to President Trump and while he was a candidate and while he was president-elect and while he was president. This whole Russia thing. There's some other stuff coming out in the news yesterday about General Flynn and how the FBI basically set him up and tried to get him on tape to lie. He didn't have any attorneys present, and they tried to make it that, because he asked, do I need an attorney? And they're like, nah, you don't need an attorney. And so, General Flynn was new to this, and they got him. He did lie. They caught him in a lie, but was it an egregious lie, something that was, national security? No, it wasn't. In fact, he was just really new to the job. President Trump hadn't even taken office yet, okay? So anyhow, so those are your executive departments, and this brings us to bureaucracy, which is, you know, part and parcel to any organization. Okay, so you take Bishop Carroll High School. Okay, we have bureaucracy at the high school. If you have a job, sometimes there's bureaucracy. It depends. Okay, so during this discussion, I usually like to, you know, ask my students, do any of you guys have a job? And I know some of you do. I heard Christian, you're working a bunch of hours, which is affecting, you know, your ability to get all your work done. It's okay. I'm not, you know, hey, look, you're working hard. I ain't gonna jump down your throat, man. So anyhow, when you have a job, generally you have what's called an associated authority and responsibility. If you work at Dillon's and I walk in there, and let's say you're a checkout clerk, okay, and you don't have anybody, and I ask you, hey, do you know where the ramen noodles are? Okay, they should be able to tell me what aisle that is. And if they don't know where that is, they're going to find somebody to help me, okay? Where when you talk about government, okay, they have chiefs and they have departments, okay? And you're only supposed to do your job, because if you do somebody else's job, then their job may not really be necessary. When you're running a business, guys, you have to be efficient. Let's talk about the DMV, where you get your driver's license, okay? Is there anywhere else you can go to get your driver's license? No, you have to go to the government, and they know that. Okay, so you're just a number, okay? Where if you go into a business, they got to make you happy because they want you to come back. Okay, so their employee's job is to make the customer happy. It doesn't work that way with government. It doesn't work that way in a lot of large organizations, and a lot of businesses that become bureaucratic, okay, they lose money and they go out of business, okay? So any organization, either in the government or private sector, have the following features: a clear formal structure, a division of labor, a set of rules and procedures while it operates. Okay, I can tell you a story. I got a few minutes, why not? Okay, I don't know if I ever told you guys this. I don't think I did. I was elected to public office once. That's right. Mr. Ebright was elected to be one of the board of directors for the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association. That's my neighborhood. Okay, we have 88 houses, and there are 5 people chosen to serve on the board. Now, you guys know these homeowners associations. Some of you live in neighborhoods where you have to keep your grass mowed, you have to paint your house, you have to take your Christmas lights down by, February 1st. If you need new siding, you got to fix it. You can't let your biggest investment, which is your home. Most people's largest investment they'll ever make in their life is their home. Well, if your neighbor doesn't mow his grass, he's got cars parked in the front yard up on jacks, they're working on it, leaving it there for weeks, and you try to sell your house, and the person that's looking to buy your house sees this neighbor right next to you, they're not going to want to move into your house with that guy living there. Okay, so these housing rules, okay, HOAs, okay, they have bylaws. So if you're going to live in, you're going to pay dues and to take care of the commons areas and that sort of thing. And so people can protect their investment. And so we had a guy that wasn't paying dues. And so the job fell on me to go down to City Hall and put a lien on his house. Basically, when you put a lien on somebody's house, you say, okay, you can't refinance your house, you can't sell your house until you pay these dues. Okay? So I went down there, and I went to the City Hall, and I went to the front desk, information, and I said, hi, I'm Charlie Ebright from the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association. I need to put a lien on somebody's house. And she says, okay, you'll just need to take the elevator up to the 5th floor and they can help you there. So I got up there to the 5th floor. There's 2 lines. And so I get in the shorter line on the left, and I get to the window after waiting a few minutes. And I say, hi, I'm Charlie Ebright from the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association. I need to put a lien on somebody's house. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. I can't help you at this window. You need to go to the other window. Okay. She has a certain job. Okay, but I didn't know what her job was. It wasn't clearly delineated. So I go in the other line, wait in line, and get to the front after waiting. I say, hi, I'm Charlie Ebright from the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association. I need to put a lien on somebody's house. And she says, oh, since this is residential, you need to go down to the 4th floor. Okay, by this time, I'm there for 45 minutes and I'm frustrated because of this bureaucracy. Finally, I get down to the 4th floor, wait in line, get up there. Hi, I'm Charlie, and they were able to help me. Okay, but if I had gone into a business and I had to talk to 2 people, 3 people, 4 people to get what I wanted, I'm not going back to that business. Okay, now I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus here, but I live really close to Home Depot. And I just, no offense, guys, I just don't feel like I get good service. I'm wandering around there, look lost as, a puppy dog. And people walk by, they don't ask, can I help you find something, that sort of thing. Okay, it makes me mad. So a lot of times I'll drive, 10 miles or 8 miles to Lowe's or Menards because I feel like I get better service there. Even though Home Depot's really close. Okay, so hey, look, that's the market. Okay, they're going to lose money if they're not doing a good job. Okay, bureaucrats. These are administrators, skilled expert workers who carry out many specific tasks in the federal bureaucracy. Okay, just one more thing on this, guys. Other terms for bureaucracy you might have heard of, like red tape. You got to cut through a bunch of red tape to get what you want, or jump through a bunch of different hoops to get what you want. Okay. One of the big impacts of bureaucracy with the COVID situation, guys, is the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Okay. When it comes to these tests, and they want, when this whole thing broke out, they had to figure out how to do these tests. Well, I don't know if you know anything about this, but the first test they were issuing in this country, guys, they were taking these long swabs. Okay, you guys know what a swab is, okay? And you had to stick it up your nose, like way up in there, into the cavity to get the swab, okay? And then you'd send it to the lab, and it would take, 3-4 days to get it back. Okay, we didn't have the type of testing we needed immediately, and so it took a while. Now we've, I think pretty much got it under control with the testing, but they developed other methods. And who did that? Private companies, not the government, okay? Because these private companies, look, we can make all these swabs, we can come up with these tests where they don't have to be so invasive, and we can turn that over in 4 hours. We can tell you whether you have the disease or not, okay? So that's the private system, and what President Trump and the government's trying to do is work both public and private. The government, the CDC, and the FDA, because the FDA has to approve these new tests. They have to go through an approval process. That takes time. Same thing with drugs. When you have a drug that works, the FDA's got to test it. They've got to do a large sample of people. I heard this on the radio yesterday. There's a new drug out that they did 1,000 COVID patients, and so they give them the drug, and then they give them placebo, which is a fake drug, which is basically a sugar pill, and they see whether the drug works. And they said in 31% of cases, this drug worked. And so they're going to start using, I forget that it starts with an R. They're going to start using this more. The FDA approved it yesterday. Okay, this is great news, okay? Because it's another drug that they can use that can help those people that are on ventilators. The vast majority of people that are getting this disease, guys, are not going on ventilators. Okay, my neighbor had it, one door down. He worked at a metal shop, and 4 of them came down with it. Here's were his symptoms. He had 4 days of fever. The fever never went over 101. He did not have a cough. He got tested because some other people had it, and he tested positive. He quarantined for 14 days. He said he had some aches. He also said he lost kind of taste and smell a little bit. But he's completely fine. Now, there are people, as you guys know, with underlying conditions, or elderly, people with diabetes have to be very careful. People with high blood pressure have to be very careful. Okay, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just kind of telling you, what's going on here. The other thing is, guys, that is out there, Stanford University has been doing some studies in California that they believe that like 50% more or even 80% more people have actually had this virus and not even known it. Okay. Some people have it and don't have any symptoms. Okay, that's why it's dangerous, because it spreads. People don't know they have it. They're giving it to other people. So when we get back, when you go to college, hopefully in this fall, there's going to be some distancing and stuff like that. When you're at work, they're going to have to do some things to protect each other. I don't know if we'll go back to normal. I think we will eventually, but it's going to take a while. But I sure hope that you guys that are going off to college get the chance to do that. Listen, if you're healthy, you don't have a lot to worry about here. If you do have pre-existing conditions, guys, you need to protect yourself. Okay. And try and get healthy. I mean, some things you can't really help, like diabetes, especially childhood diabetes. That's tough. My neighbor has it. He's getting married. He hasn't seen his fiance in 7 weeks, other than from a social distance. She works in the healthcare field. Yeah, I mean, it's just things, we've got to take seriously. But at the same time, we've got to get our economy back going. Okay. So there's my COVID talk. Okay. All right. Civil service. This is made up of civilians who carry out the work of government. So this could be somebody that's like a mailman or a postman or a postal worker, I guess you could say. They're civil service. The people that work at the DMV, civil service. Does that make sense? Okay. The spoils system is this how you get a government job? This is how it used to be. So these are cush jobs given out by the president and his cabinet and other people that are political appointments and so forth. But staffing all these jobs at the DMV, if you did it based on your political party or your friends, how fair would that be? Okay, so back under Andrew Jackson, there was a lot of spoils. So they passed something called the Pendleton Act a long time ago that said you have to hire people based on the merit system. So you have civil service exams. You want to go to work for the government. You take this exam. You do good enough on it. They hire you. Okay. That's based on your merit, not on who you know. Okay. Independent agencies. These are interesting. I just talked about the Postal Service. There are independent agencies. Let's see what the book says about these. Independent executive agencies. So they give some examples here on page 200. So NASA's a good example. The Peace Corps. Okay. National Archives. Okay. They're government agencies, but they operate separately from the executive department. So they're not part of one of the cabinets. They're not part of the Department of Transportation or something like that. Okay. Guys, there are dozens of these. Okay. And then you have independent executive agencies. Okay. These oversee, manage specific aspect of the federal government. So on page 201, this is executive. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about with NASA. Sorry, I got that mixed up a little bit. So independent agencies would be like the EPA, okay, the Environmental Protection Agency. Do they have government corporations? Yeah. Yeah, that's the U.S. Postal Service. Okay. Independent regulatory commissions. Oh, you got to love these. Okay. You've got the Interstate Commerce Commission, the Federal Trade Commission. They send regulations. Okay. Which regulations are great, man. Just part of the bureaucracy. Okay. Doesn't really fit in here. Bipartisan, basically, when you have groups from both parties that agree on something. It's like say there was a vote in the House and all 435 voted for it. That would be a bipartisan vote. Okay. Both parties agreed. Okay. This is a term that's used a lot. There's not a lot of bipartisanship in Washington today. Okay, the parties are very divided. Now on this COVID stuff, the 2.2 trillion, and then last week the Paycheck Protection Program (PPP) was passed. That was like $400 billion. This is money going to small businesses and people that have been laid off. Now I was at a buddy's house yesterday. And yeah, social distancing. And he told me him and his wife both got a check for $1,200. Both of them are teachers. And I'm like, well, you guys didn't get laid off. And they said, well, yeah, if your family makes less than $150,000 a year, everybody got $1,200 checks, and then they got $600 for their daughter. Like, sweet. Yeah, they said they paid off her car. I didn't get that. Where's my check? I pay taxes. So some of your families, I know, definitely got those checks. And then we've had really up the unemployment situation, helping with unemployment. Some employers are still trying to pay their people while they're furloughed. I know Boeing's, Spirit, all this stuff. It's been tough, guys. We got to get back to work. I feel, I don't think there's enough talk about. I mean, we talk about the doctors and the nurses and all the medical people. I don't know if you know what's going on at the hospitals, guys. There's not much healthcare going on besides COVID. We have 450 people in beds in Kansas with COVID. Okay, the rest of the beds are mostly empty because they're not bringing people to the hospital unless it's completely necessary. And so they're having to lay off doctors or really cut their pay. I had to go to the eye doctor because I have a retinal issue, and but the other doctors' offices are closed. This is just for people like they could lose their sight. So, and I talked to the lady there, and she said, yeah, they laid off a bunch of people, and they don't know if they'll ever get their jobs back. It's horrible. So there's a lot of people affected by this guy. So the government spent, almost $3 trillion trying to help people. Okay. Of course, that's going to add to the national debt. Okay. I mean, it's going to jump $3 trillion, maybe $4 this year. It's crazy. But what do you do when the government says, hey, you have to shut down? Well, then that's through no fault of your own. You didn't do anything. So the government's helping people. Okay. We'll see how this all works out. Okay. Government corporations, these are run like a business. I'll give you two here. Amtrak. Amtrak is, the railroad for civilians. And then the U.S. Postal Service. Both of these government corporations lose money every year. Okay. The Postal Service, you work for the government, guys, and this isn't banging on anybody, but you make good money. You work for the post office, man. You get great benefits, good pay, but they're not charging enough to with the stamps and so forth to cover the cost of all the employees and what they do, all the trucks and all the delivery and all that. They're not charging enough. So what do? If you're a business, you're a corporation, you've got to make a profit. Well, these government corporations, they lose money every year, and so the government has to bail them out. Okay. So some people have talked about doing away with the Postal Service or scaling it back. I don't know what the answer is. I think the answer is you charge more to deliver mail. It just becomes more expensive. Okay. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. And we're going to, like I said, I'll come up with a test and post it next week. And then maybe later in the week, start on 7, I'll look at the calendar. We got judicial branch, and we're done, baby. Okay. You guys take care of yourselves. Get out, get some sun. Got some beautiful weather. They do say that getting sun and fresh air is a great thing during this, during this virus and all that. I've been taking walks every day, 10,000 steps. Don't sit around too much. My brother-in-law is in the hospital right now in Maryland. He was busy. And then sat around the house for 2 weeks, and he got that, those blood clots. I mean, he's just a healthy guy. He runs. He's got blood clots. So he's in the hospital right now. So that's my brother-in-law, Gary. So say some prayers for Gary, and hopefully he's going to be all right. So I think they caught it in time. So you guys take care. I'll see you next week.